This week, the culmination of 1862. But first, something I didn't have time for last week. The Second Battle of Galveston in Texas. In October of 1862, the Union captured Galveston in a bloodless battle of Galveston Harbor, tightening their blockade of the Texas coast. The Confederacy cannot abide by this. The Galveston Bay is a huge port for the secessionist republic, and their supply lines can't handle the strain of its loss for long at least. The Union has stationed over 400 men and 6 naval vessels in Galveston. The Confederacy, which has a much weaker navy, has only 2 ships and an unknown number of infantry to recapture the harbor. The difference of power is not as uneven as the numbers make it seem, though. Union Fleet Commander William B. Renshaw's 6 gunboats are the USS Clifton, USS Harriet Lane, USS Westfield, USS Owasco, USS Corfus, and USS Shaman. These steam gunboats are impressive, their armament less so. They do carry some high-powered rifled cannons, in addition to some less effective smoothbore heavy guns. But really, these ships are supposed to take down blockade runners, not be the defense against other naval vessels. Major General John B. McGruder of the Confederacy has sent out Leon Smith, no official rank as far as I can tell, with these 2 ships I was talking about earlier, the CSS Bayou City and CSS Neptune. These ships are cotton-clad with a dismal armament. Bayou City has 1 rifled cannon, and the Neptune 2 howitzers. Even with this pathetic fleet, Smith advances. It happens quickly as 2 ships close in on Renshaw's fleet. Union gunboats turn to face the enemy, opening fire on the Neptune. It's disabled quickly, but it bought time for the Bayou City to engage the USS Harriet Lane. Which, after a short conflict, is captured. The USS Westfield runs aground to escape any possible melees, and seeing that the day is going for him, but he is still in a risky position, General McGruder calls for a truce. Renshaw isn't ready for the Westfield to be captured just like the Harriet Lane, and breaks the truce by blowing it up. Unfortunately, the explosion was premature, and Renshaw, along with others, were killed by the blast. Union infantry in the harbor, seeing a ship captured and the other one detonated, believe they are surrounded and surrender. The rest of the Union fleet escapes to federal-held New Orleans. The cost of 26 killed and 117 wounded, McGruder and Smith captured 420 men, the USS Harriet Lane, and destroyed, with Renshaw's help, the USS Westfield. Securing Galveston Harbor, Confederate Congress congratulates their commanders on the capture of the Texas town. The bold, intrepid, and gallant conduct of Major General J. Bankhead McGruder, Colonel Thompson Green, Major Leon Smith, and other officers, and of the Texan Rangers and soldiers engaged in the attack on and victory achieved over the land and naval forces of the enemy at Galveston on the 1st of January, 1863, Emily entitled them to the thanks of Congress and the country. This brilliant achievement, resulting under the providence of God, the capture of the war steamer Harriet Lane, and the defeat and ignominious flight of the hostile fleet from the harbor, the recapture of the city, and the raising of the blockade of the port of Galveston, signally evinces that superior force may be overcome by skillful conception and daring courage. Next, to where we left off last week, at Stone River, Tennessee. Major General William Rosecrans is in a very similar position to where he was before the Battle of the 31st began. He has 3 wings, with Colonel Samuel Beatty, the man who replaced Van Cleve, across the river on the heights. Although his line is much more compact than it was before, Full General Braxton Bragg is also in a very similar position, though he now rests on the Wilkinson Pike closer to the enemy. The morning of the 2nd is dreary, with gray clouds hiding the warmth of the sun. For most of the day, there are small movements everywhere. General Bragg still hopes the enemy will withdraw until around 2 p.m., when he realizes that General Rosecrans is here to stay. If the rebels want a victory, they will have to charge the enemy lines. The issue for the Confederacy is that they don't have a lot of men to charge with. Most of Lieutenant General Hardee's wing is exhausted and broken. Lieutenant General Polk isn't doing much better. Chetham's division is needed to hold down the Round Forest, leaving only General Breckinridge to head the assault. He calls it suicidal and a bad idea, and Bragg is an idiot for suggesting it. But he's outranked. The attack is to happen at 4 p.m., only an hour before anticipated nightfall. Breckinridge's officers are also displeased with General Bragg's idea, but again are outranked. The order is to load, fix bayonets, and march through the brushwood. Then, charge at double quick to within 100 yards of the enemy. Deliver fire and go at them with the bayonet. 4 p.m. Boom! A cannon is fired. The Confederates move out of their hiding place in good order. The Kentuckian Brigade of Brigadier General Roger Hanson, also known as the Orphan Brigade, since they can't return to Kentucky, as it is a state that remained in the Union, is forced to move 2 regiments to the rear. General Gideon J. Pillow hides behind, cowering under a tree. Breckinridge charges him with behavior unbecoming of an officer, with an additional 2 witnesses to back up this claim. They are later dropped, but Pillow's career is over. Back at Union Camp, Colonel Samuel Beatty and Colonel James P. Fife with Major General Rosecrans when a frantic messenger comes. The division is under assault. The 2 colonels ride back. Colonel Price, commanding the 3rd Brigade, opposite the Orphan Brigade, tells his men to wait till 100 yards. Breckinridge realizes that he's advancing against heavy Union artillery, and the cavalry doesn't protect his flank as Wheeler is off doing whatever he does. He rushes batteries to protect his flank, doing with the 3rd Wisconsin. Not that it does much, because most of the rebel line is ripped apart by artillery fire. General Hanson is wounded by a stray shell, and Breckinridge attends to him, replacing him in command with Colonel Robert Trabue. The 2nd Kentucky, CSA, was across the river to deliver flanking fire, sniping away at Colonel Price's line. The 6th Kentucky CSA moves to strike on the flank. A charge is got out 200 yards away. They open fire and continue to move without the Union returning fire. At 100 yards, the front line of the brigade rises and unleashes their volley, demolishing the front of the Orphan Brigade. Behind them is Colonel Gibson, leading the brigade of currently wounded General Daniel W. Adams. Gibson lays down fire with the Orphan Brigade into Price's brigade, trading murderous musketry. This hailstorm of lead causes the 2nd line of the Union to lay down and seek cover. When Gibson and Trabue are able to leverage their pressure, they send back the front line into the 2nd line, causing great confusion. The rebels continued up the assault, striking the final of Price's regiments, the 79th Indiana, and striking Fife's brigade. Colonel Beatty has only one hope. His former brigade, now under Colonel Grider, the 9th and 11th Kentucky, along with the 19th Ohio, move across McFadden's Ford and unleash volleys into the Confederate grays. They seem to have stalled the advance, and Grider calls for artillery support. But as Breckinridge's reserves arrive, the 19th Ohio, who is flanked on the right wing, fall back, causing a ripple effect, leading them back across the river. The Confederates' right, made up of General Pillow's and General Preston's brigades, are hounded by deadly fire, so they advance, rushing for cover and forming a line of battle 4 columns deep. This finished off 5 brigades, forcing it backwards. The 13th Ohio breaks across the river, the rest rally at Hoover's house. There they are with the final defense, Colonel Gross's 3rd Brigade, General Palmer's 2nd Division. Colonel Gross's brigade is formed up on railed barricades and goes to Hoover House parallel McFadden's Lane. He is prepared for an assault head-on. With the quick collapse of the Union line, he is struck not from the east, but from the south. He can't change line quickly enough, forcing his front line backwards. The 9th Kentucky, U.S., lost its flag. 300 were captured. 100 were captured at the river. The Union's northern flank was decimated. This exposes the rest of the Union line. All the rebels need to do is cross the river and strike Generals Thomas and McCook's rear. Major General Thomas Crittenden has one last hope. No division or brigade commanders. No generals or colonels, but a single captain. Captain John Mendenhall, the chief of artillery. Mendenhall was prepared. He already has 20 guns amassed before the assault began at 4. When he heard those words, "Now, Mendenhall, you must cover my men with your cannon," he brought in the rest. 58 cannons total, 21 on the hill. They open a concentrated battery that tears into Breckinridge's infantry just as they take the crest of the hill. It's accurate and murderous. The barrels sound like thunder and leave as much in their wake as lightning. Flag bearers and commanders are cut down. Companies fall down like grass under a blade. No push can be made. No orders can be heard if they are given. The Confederates move to bring up their heavy guns to do counter-battery fire. They knock out one of Mendenhall's cannons, but that's all they can do. In fact, not all the Confederate cannons were there, because one battery commander decided that the forest was the only safe place for his men, and he is correct. The Union guns, fire, or dazzling water, loaded, aimed, and fired again. Till 4:45, no infantry moves unless it's to fall down dead or be thrown at the will of a shell. At 4:45, General Rosecrans writes to Negley and says, "Sir, they have turned me back, and all depends on you. The day must be ours. Let them come. My boys are ready." Brigadier General Negley has 2 brigades ready, Colonel Stanley's and Colonel Miller's. They watch as the last of Betty's division moves across the stream. The survivors believe the day is lost, till they reach a cornfield, seeing those 2 brigades lying prone. The rebels reached the east bank. Miller orders his brigade to open fire. They hit the surprised Confederates. Miller rushes to the rail fence along the river, continuing the murderous fire on the Greycoats. Some of Breckinridge's division tried to cross over. Devastating mistake. They are shot to pieces, and those who aren't flee to a ford almost a mile upriver. Miller hears that report from the 78th Pennsylvania. He goes over to the 19th Illinois. "Colonel, if we don't charge, the rebels will charge us. Will you join me if I do?" "Certainly, I'll get my command ready." Miller's brigade jumps into the water without orders from Negley. The regiments are mixed in the water, but Miller realigns them at the fence on the other side. He gets the order to withdraw. No. Another order. No. Brigadier General Palmer with his 2nd Division deploys the brigade of Hazen, who moves forward to protect Negley's division. But it's hard work, and most of the regiments are left in the reserves. After making a bridgehead, the 41st Ohio are working on guy duty, bringing the broken remnants of Betty's division across the ford. Negley rides to Captain St. Clair Morton, the Engineers or Pioneers Brigade. Screw it, he doesn't have time. "For God's sake, help my division on the left!" They don't need help, as the now 7 brigades involved in the counterattack are making deadly work, pushing from Palmer's, Negley's, and Betty's division. The Confederates rout. Some beg for mercy from Union soldiers, falling on their knees, claiming to be conscripts. Others fall back, being shot to pieces as they do. Others just flee, deserting their post. The Confederate cannons take no risks. Instead of trying to hold back the Union, they limber up and withdraw. Bragg had lost the day, and Stone's River with it. On the night of the 3rd, he falls back. On the 5th, Rosecrans occupies Murfreesboro. The Confederacy lost 1,294 killed, 7,945 wounded, and 2,500 captured or missing, for a total of 11,739. The Union lost 1,677 killed. The Union lost 1,677 killed, 7,543 wounded, and 3,686 captured or missing, for a total of 12,906. The counterattack cost Bragg 1,500 and Rosecrans 700 alone. But that really doesn't matter. The Army of the Cumberland can fight. The Army of the Tennessee can't. Bragg has officers who point the finger at him for the loss. His force is demoralized, not willing to fight. Organization is alien to his army. There is no longer an Army of Tennessee. Rosecrans, on the other hand, "God has crowned our arms with victory. The enemy are badly beaten and in full retreat. We shall press them as rapidly as means of traveling and subsistence will permit. He earned the thanks of Lincoln, who needed a victory.
God bless you, and all with you. Please tender to all, and accept for yourself the nation's gratitude for your and their skill, endurance, and dauntless courage. I can never forget, whilst I remember anything about the end of last year and beginning of this, you gave us a hard-earned victory, which, had there been a defeat instead, the nation could scarcely have lived over.
From Secretary of the Navy Gideon Welles, Bruce Friends has done himself and the country service. Then we move to Missouri for the Second Battle of Springfield. Confederate Brigadier General John S. Marmaduke, at the head of cavalry, left Arkansas on the 31st of December to raid Union supply lines in Missouri. His principal aim was the road between Rolla and Springfield, around here-ish. He has moved his cavalry into 3 columns, one under Colonel Joseph C. Porter, the next under Colonel Emmett McDonald, and the last under him. They'll move divided and fight united. On the 7th, Brigadier General Egbert Brown is informed of oncoming rebel cavalry to his garrison of around 1,400 infantry. He has a good defensive position. First, he has houses for cover, and earthen fortresses, a stockaded college, and the high ground. On the morning of the 8th, he arms civilian volunteers and readies his regulars. They look out from Springfield and see him, General Marmaduke. And only General Marmaduke, who has only his column. He has given orders to both Porter and MacDonald to move towards Springfield and join him, though. But as he is outnumbered by the enemy, all he does is foraging and reconnaissance. Around 9, he rides around, capturing some nearby militia, while also keeping out of General Brown's range. At 10, Colonel MacDonald arrives with his force, and General Marmaduke feels confident enough to begin the battle. He dismounts 2 regiments and sends them out to protect his force as the rebel line is developed. These 2 regiments engage with 2 forward regiments of Union cavalry, which they push backwards, until Federal artillery opens up from seemingly burnt-down houses. Brown burnt down civilian housing to open up a clean line of sight for a battery from a fort, number 4. Colonel Joseph O. Shelby of the Confederacy takes over directing an assault on that fort, fort number 4. Confederates can't take it. They seek cover in a ravine, but when they regroup for their next assault, they are fighting uphill. Shelby moves his focus to the stockaded college building, which he takes, using the elevated defensive position to lay down fire on the fort. The Union decides to take the building back, advancing against it. The fighting is hand-to-hand. The Confederates have a numerical advantage, counterattacking and seizing a Union cannon. But Brown is soon reinforced and pushes them out from Springfield. By 4 p.m., Marmaduke is desperate to seize the town, charging fort number 4 and being brutally beaten back. With Porter nowhere in sight, the rebels withdraw. Springfield stands. The Union numbered 2,100 and suffered 30 killed, 195 wounded, and 6 missing. The Confederates lost 70 to 80 killed, 200 wounded, and 12 captured. Marmaduke's first engagement in this raid was a failure. Then we get to the Emancipation Proclamation taking effect. It did officially take effect on the 1st, but I didn't have time to cover it. But first, a correction of a minor point of historical annoyance. Some have claimed that the proclamation didn't free a single slave. Now, this could be taken figuratively for some, but that isn't how I take it. I think it's just blatantly incorrect, because from the coast of North and South Carolina, 20,000 slaves are instantly freed, in areas that were occupied but not exempted. Northern Alabama, the Mississippi floodplains, the Shenandoah Valley, islands off of Georgia, and all of Union-controlled Arkansas, slaves are also freed. As the great day drew near, there was more singing in the slave quarters than usual. It was bolder, had more ring, lasted later into the night. Most of the verses of the plantation songs had some reference to freedom. Some men who seemed to be a stranger, a United States officer I presume, made a little speech, then read a rather long paper, the Emancipation Proclamation, I think. After the reading, we were told that we were all free, could go when and where we pleased. My mother, who was standing by my side, leaned over and kissed her children, while tears of joy ran down her cheeks. She explained to us what it all meant, that this was the day for which she had been so long praying, but fearing that she would never live to see. A response comes from the Confederate States of America to the Senate and House of Representatives of the Confederate States. The public journals of the North have been received containing a proclamation dated on the first day of the present month, signed by the President of the United States, in which he orders and declares all slaves within 10 states of the Confederacy to be free, except such as are found in certain districts now occupied in part by the armed forces of the enemy. We may well leave it to the instincts of that common humanity which are beneficent Creator has implanted in the breasts of our fellow men of all countries to pass judgment on a measure by which several millions of human beings, an inferior race, peaceful and contented laborers in their sphere, are doomed to extermination, while at the same time they are encouraged to a general assassination of their masters by the insidious recommendation to abstain from violence unless in necessary self-defense. Our own detestation of those who have attempted the most execrable measure recorded in the history of guilty men is tempered by profound contempt for the impotent rage which it discloses. So far as regards the actions of this government on such criminals as may attempt its execution, I confine myself to informing you that I shall, unless in your wisdom you deem some other course more expedient, deliver to the several state authorities all commissioned officers of the United States that may hereafter be captured by our forces in any of the states embraced in the proclamation that may be dealt with in accordance with the laws of those states, providing for the punishment of criminals engaged in exciting servile insurrection. The enlisted soldiers I shall continue to treat as unwilling instruments in the commission of these crimes, and shall direct their discharge and return to their homes on the proper and usual parole. Jefferson Davis. And from Lee. In view of the vast increase of the forces of the enemy, the savage and brutal policy he hath proclaimed, which leaves us no alternative but success or degradation worse than death, if we would save the honor of our families from pollution, our social systems from destruction, let every effort be made, every means employed, to fill and maintain the ranks of our armies until God in his mercy shall bless us with the establishment of our independence. Then there is Sickles. He sits on the Rappahannock. There is no festivity this week, just maintenance. Or is there? Because we have to talk about Burnside. He has come up with an offensive for January that is not popular with those who know, and will definitely be ridiculed by those who don't. Two of those who do know are Brigadier General John Cochrane, 1st Brigade, 3rd Division, 6th Corps, and Brigadier General John Newton, 3rd Division, 6th Corps. And they on the 2nd left for Washington, D.C. Brigadier General William H.T. Brooks, 1st Division, 6th Corps, speaks out against it violently. Newton and Cochrane can't meet with congressmen, as they initially planned, because Congress is in recess, and no one is in D.C. except the White House. Cochrane was represented for New York, and has connections that gets him to a meeting with Secretary of State William H. Seward. Seward gets him a meeting with the president, among others. There, they speak to Lincoln, who just assumes they want a promotion and need Burnside out of the way. But as time goes on, they convince him. Why does this matter? To Sickles, at least. Well, let me ask you a question. How would divisional commanders know about this unless corps commanders knew? If corps commanders know, wouldn't Grand Division commanders know? There are 3 Grand Division commanders. Major General Edwin Sumner, Major General William B. Franklin, and Major General Joseph Hooker. When these 3 were told, only one was angered to action, Hooker. And who is Hooker if not Sickles' ally? If Burnside is gone, Fighting Joe will likely take over. That's where the week ends. What has 1863 brought us? A minor Union defeat, a minor Union victory, a major Union victory, and freedom for many. Galveston and Springfield are inconsequential. There isn't much more to say about Stones River that Lincoln hasn't already said. So let's focus on the Emancipation Proclamation. It was written during the Union's failure on the peninsula, issued on the victory at Antietam, and enacted with the victory by Rosecrans. But it isn't purely military, unless it's for legal reasons, in which case, yes, it's only military. It's a spiritual cleansing of America. It's by no means the end of slavery. The slave states that remained in the Union are still allowed to enslave African Americans, as are the exempted territories. But a majority of the nation, be they now in rebellion, are no longer slave territory. And slavery, where it does exist, is on its deathbed. As this year continues, every day, more people will hear the Liberty Bell, and the chains that hindered the Enlightenment ideals of this nation will be cast off and broken, so that the original sin of America is undone by the sacrifice not of a single man, but all those willing to fight for one indivisible union. Hello, it's the entire 4 week by week team here, and here we are in 1863. The war is getting harder and harder to cover, but don't worry, I'm willing to stick it out. I would like to thank everyone who has watched, be they since that first week in the April of 1861, or just recently came here off of whatever reason. Thank you. Your support means the world to me. And for those whose support is financial, I shall now want to thank them in person. Rick Marita, Sam Aronow, John Fox, and Kevin Mack, my lovely patrons. Thank you. Your support goes to helping with mostly equipment, some books, but really it's just an honor that you guys found me worthy of even a bit of your money. You should now be seeing on the screen videos, playlists, another place to subscribe, or whatever else I threw in. Thank you, and I shall see you next week.